Greetings everyone. Welcome back to Storytime Recaps. In this video, I'm going to recap one of the films from 2004, Man on Fire. Before we start, I hope your day be filled with sunshine and smile. Enjoy the story. Rich people are being abducted by criminal gangs in Mexico City, and they are extorting their families for the huge ransom money. 18, a young man, is abducted while strolling through the city streets with his girlfriend, while the family is being comforted by police detective Victor Fuentes, human trafficker Daniel Sanchez, who is highly intrigued by 18's $10 million life insurance policy. Calls 18's affluent father. After a dead drop orchestrated by the father and Fuentes, 18 is discovered alive and in his underwear next to a freeway overpass. Mexican businessman Samuel Ramos talks about this incident with his lawyer, Jordan Calfas, because it has persuaded Lisa, his wife, that their daughter Lupita Pita Ramos, 9, needs a bodyguard. Pita had a bodyguard until recently, but they had to let him go, so it is implied that Ramos is having financial difficulties, which may be the reason for his reluctance to do this. Reminding Ramos that he needs to hire a new bodyguard in order to renew the family's ransom insurance, Calfas suggests that he speak with Paul Rayburn, an executive security firm owner and former CIA agent. Rayburn suggests John Creasy, an old CIA comrade, to the family. Creasy's resume, which highlights a range of counterterrorism and counterinsurgency operations, impresses Ramos. Ramos' wife Lisa and her daughter Pita meet Creasy for the first time. Lisa likes Creasy and continues to hire him as her daughter's bodyguard. But Creasy has become so exhausted by all the horror and death that he has turned to alcoholism to help him cope. He even makes an attempt at suicide, but his gun misfires. Rayburn explains this by pointing out that bullets often end up in the hands of well-deserving targets. Creasy needs a job, but he's not interested in being a bodyguard or even spending time with the child. Creasy finds himself opening up to the child, and his initial impatience gradually subsides. In their absence, he stands in for her parents, offering guidance and coaching her during her swim lessons and competitions. He helps her get over her fear of starting pistols and transforms it into a desire to move at the first sound. Pita presents Creasy with a picture of St. Jude, the patron saint of hopeless causes, claiming to have paid for it herself. Not long after dropping her off at her piano audition, Creasy sees two police cars obstructing the nearby street and a suspicious car driving by. Creasy takes out his gun and fires a shot into the air, resembling a starter pistol, shocking Pita into fleeing as she comes out of the building and freezes. Two corrupt police officers and four other attackers are killed in the gunfight that ensues. After Creasy is critically injured in the battle and rendered unconscious, the remaining kidnappers are able to take the child. While Creasy lies unconscious in the hospital, the police chief publicly makes fun of him and says he killed the two cops. The fact that the police officers were in uniform and operating squad cars when they were meant to be off-duty raises suspicions in the mind of journalist Mariana Guerrero. Miguel Manzano, her federal ministerial police contact, asserts quite bluntly that the officers were dishonest. They agree to speak with Creasy after his recuperation. Fuentes takes charge and reassures the family that there is a good chance of Pita's safe return as long as they follow his advice. Even though Calfas wants the police kept out of the negotiations for Pita's release because the deaths of the two officers make the kidnapping a police matter. Shortly after, Pita is demanded by Sanchez in exchange for a $10 million dead drop ransom. Even though Ramos is told to go to the drop alone, Fuentes suggests against it and goes with Ramos. The kidnappers are ambushed, forcing Ramos and Fuentes to escape, and the drop goes horribly wrong. An enraged Sanchez reveals that Ramos disregarded his orders, which led to the death of his nephew in the ambush. It is assumed that Pita is dead when he says that she is lost to them forever. After learning of Creasy's predicament, Rayburn assists Creasy in making his way to a safe home where he can heal from his wounds. When Creasy gets better, he goes back to Pita's house and swears to Lisa that he will kill anyone who helped arrange the kidnapping or made money off of it. Creasy discovers, with the aid of Guerrero and Manzano, that the dishonest police officers are part of La Hermandad, a formidable criminal organization that translates to the Brotherhood. A number of Brotherhood members are abducted by Creasy, who then tortures them until they divulge the identities of all the participants in the kidnapping scheme, including Fuentes. He finds out that Fuentes will be driving through the city in a high-security motorcade with Guerrero's assistance. Creasy uses a rocket launcher to take out the armored cars that were following Fuentes' limo. Then he goes down to the street to confront the remaining guards, using a hotel room as a makeshift sniper's nest. Following a lengthy gunfight in which Creasy employed sophisticated guerrilla warfare techniques, Creasy pilfers the limousine and renders Fuentes unconscious. Fuentes confesses during questioning that he planned so many of them in the past that he believed it would be simple money to ambush the dead drop. However, only 2.5 million, or 25% of the total ransom, were found in the bags that were stolen from the drop. Fuentes pleads for mercy, stating that he is merely an employed expert, much like Creasy. Disgusted, Creasy admits that while Fuentes was unconscious, he planted an explosive in his rectum, which is set to detonate in 5 minutes. Fuentes spends the final moments of his life screaming until the explosive detonates, killing him, as Creasy walks away. When Creasy tracks down Calfus after spending an additional 2.5 million, he discovers his severed head floating in a swimming pool when he confronts him at his home. When he approaches Ramos, he acknowledges that he was in risk of going bankrupt, which is why Calfus proposed that they stage Pita's kidnapping in order for him to get the insurance money. Most of the arrangements had been made by Calfus, who reassured Ramos that Pita would only be spending a few hours in a safe house watching cartoons. Once Fuentes became overly avaricious, things took a bad turn. Ramos executed Calfus, accusing him of being the cause. Rayburn's earlier warning that bullets always find worthy targets is reiterated by Creasy, who leaves a pistol and a single bullet on the table. Ramos takes the gun and ends his own life after Creasy and Lisa depart. Sanchez is being tracked electronically by Manzano's men while Creasy keeps chasing after him. As Guerrero gets ready to publish Sanchez's picture in the newspaper, a gang member attacks her on the way home and makes threats to murder her if she does. Nevertheless, the paper publishes it, titling it Tienvo El Nido. Creasy gets access to Aurelio's apartment after finding out where his brother lives. Creasy sustains a chest wound from Aurelio, but he manages to pursue him. When Aurelio tries to flee in a VW bus, Creasy hurts him, causing him to collide with a big truck. Creasy escorts Aurelio back to his apartment while apprehending Reina, Sanchez's heavily pregnant wife. He abuses Aurelio and makes Reina page Sanchez, who then returns the call. After Pita's survival is revealed by Sanchez, Creasy becomes determined to kill him. If Creasy gives up and lets Aurelio live, he offers to release her. Creasy accepts and brings Lisa to a secluded rural location to complete the transaction. Aurelio and Creasy get into a car and drive off as Pita rushes to her mother. As Creasy lies dying in the backseat from his gunshot wound, Pita gives him the St. Jude emblem. An epilogue discloses that Manzano killed Sanchez that same day while conducting a police raid.